fair use.
Issued a code orange air quality alert for most of our area today. That's because of the smoke from wildfires up in Canada made its way down to the Delaware Valley. Check this out. Chopper 6.
A gaping hole in a busy section of I-95 in Philadelphia is snarling traffic for hundreds of thousands of drivers. The vital roadway collapsed yesterday after a tanker truck caught fire underneath it. Tonight, crews have begun demolition of the destroyed section of I-95, but authorities say rebuilding the highway could take months.
Our city monitoring the Vine Street Expressway, which is underwater due to the Schuylkill River rising so fast and so furiously. Chad.
Hey, Nydia, you know, I've been here 18 years, and I can say this is the worst of flooding I've seen here in the city of Philadelphia, especially here on the Vine Street Expressway. I'm going to have my photographer kind of hop up to give you guys a better vantage point.
Welcome back to Geomancy. As always, thank you for joining me. A lot of interesting things have been happening where I live. I don't know about where you live, but I'm sure the same stuff is being reflected all across this realm as we are underway a reset. Here I am driving on the Vine Street Expressway, which 2 years ago was completely underwater, and I'm driving through Canadian smoke. So if this isn't reset, I don't know what it is. We've got flooding, we've got fires, we've got everything, upheaval and unrest. I just hope you're well. We're gonna look at some things on Google Earth and see what's good. I'm gonna just start here and show you where this bridge collapsed on I-95. And if you don't know, if you're not from the United States, I-95 is one of the main interstates or highways in the entire country. It basically connects the entire East Coast from New England all the way down to Florida. So any kind of accident or hiccup happening here is sure to impact a lot of different things. So this is the exact site where this very suspicious collapse took place, and the official story says that the fire from the tanker melted the beams. Where have we heard that one before? But anyway, you can see that in the last video, in your own backyard, I was talking about this ley line which runs from New York to Philadelphia and actually extends down to Washington, D.C. And I mentioned how 95 ran parallel to this ley line, or a part of 95 did. So there is power in geomancy and in ley lines, and we're seeing that a lot of these events happen in strange places. So, you know, we can look here. What you notice, there are some prisons. Now, this is the new prison that's nearby, right? But this is the old Holmesburg prison, and every single time I drive on 95 going this direction, I would just look out and wonder, what the heck is that? It looks like it's from another time. And this was before I even had any real deep understanding that it probably was. So, you know, we find these strange events happening in places of power, and I was not surprised, to be honest. This event seems to me like a shock test. They're doing something to see how the nation reacts, and, you know, obviously harvest our emotional energy and our energetic energy, because it's going to take more time to travel, therefore more gas. You know, I already explained how these roadways are some type of interesting energy collecting system. So when they do something like this, if you don't know who they are, this speaks reset to me. And, you know, this is just one of many events that the Philly area has been dealing with in the last few years, as you saw. So here's what I'm going to show you in this map section. I'm going to show you some interesting findings. So for one, I connected United States with Europe. So we will be able to see how the octagon looks in Europe. But before I do that, I'm going to show you some findings. All right. So one of the things I've found is that 15 U.S. state capitals plus the District of Columbia can be found along this grid. And, it's interesting because the grid does not take up that much landmass, but the fact that there are 15 capitals placed and laced along this lets us know that there has to be something significant to it. So I'm going to show you, okay? And at the end of this video, I'm actually going to take you to my state capital in Harrisburg over here. But do note that the original capital of Pennsylvania and of the United States was in Philadelphia. That's no surprise. I've already talked about how significant Philly is, and this is why I seem to be coming back to it. So before I show you, too much, let's just look around. I'm gonna show you Europe and how I connected it. So here's Europe. Has me really put things into perspective because it didn't take too many octagons to cover Europe or Western Europe. I didn't really get deep into Russia, and I didn't do much else of the world. I'll get to that, but I just wanted to see what happens when I make these connections. So maybe some of my European viewers can, chime in and say, hey, yeah, I notice a pattern about this and that, just like I'm doing in the United States. I will come back to this, so just make note of it now. So this is the first thing I'm going to show you. I started noticing some alignments and connections, and I'm just going to show you. The Pennsylvania state capital in Harrisburg connects to the West Virginia state capital, and this is how. When we go down to Harrisburg, interesting place, and again, you'll see this if you stick to the end. I'm actually going to take you on the ground here. Here's the Capitol complex, right? And you can see how it's aligned. So let me actually just show you here, right? We've got State Street, which is this main street right here. And then it's just going out. Where could it possibly connect? Well, this is where. And without missing a beat, we're not even going to waste time going into what passes through and whatnot, because I just want to show you what we're working with. Now, Charleston, West Virginia, same namesake as Charleston, South Carolina, and bam, it connects directly to the capital. And I actually talked about this capital in The Prolific Architects of the 1800s, Part 1, where I explained how these capitol buildings were built under very strange circumstances. And, for example, the West Virginia State Capitol has this golden dome, which you can see, and it was completed in 1932, we're told, which was right at the kickoff of the Great Depression. So it doesn't make sense that West Virginia, of all states, would need this at that time. But as always, what do I know? Now, that's just one connection, and you can tell there's no mistaking it. I mean, these two capitals are connecting on the dot, and it's not even like an accident because Harrisburg is aligned in this direction. So when I talk about geomancy, this is the art of placing buildings and other sites auspiciously. Debate me in the comments if you like. I'm going to show you another one, okay? So the next one we're going to do is Madison to Sacramento. All right. Now, when I'm doing these kinds of alignments, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the layout of the building. Come on now. And you see how this is like a cross? So I'm going to go out of one of the directions of the cross. And clearly this whole site, man, I could really spend some time looking at all these. I will link in the description my Google Earth file to this 50 U.S. state capitals plus DC. And maybe you could make your own connections and see what's good. But here we have another state street. So in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, The alignment from Harrisburg to Charleston ran down State Street. Here in Wisconsin, this alignment is going down State Street. And yeah, clearly things are planned around it. So let's go to this place. Also, Madison is between two lakes, okay? Lake Monona and Lake Mendota. So we're gonna go straight across the country here and connect it to Sacramento. And in Sacramento, bang, right to the top. Now, I will be spending some more time seeing where else aligns with capitals. I don't know the significance of it. I'm good at finding things, but I don't always know why I find these things. But what other state capitals are on or within nearby this grid? We've got Cheyenne, Wyoming, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Arizona, Montana, Helena. What else? Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul. We've got Iowa, Des Moines, Indiana. I've already talked about that one. Obviously West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, Mississippi. This is no coincidence. These ley lines, they have more power than we think, and they affect our reality in ways that we don't fully understand. So just by looking at them will help clarify things a bit. But I thought this was very interesting, and I look forward to finding more connections worldwide. So in part 2, I'm going to take you to Harrisburg, which is the capital of Pennsylvania, after they moved it from Lancaster and before that, Philadelphia. So I had a field trip here back when I was in elementary school, and I met the governor. And I remember being inside of this building and just thinking how amazing it is. He liked my Allen Iverson jersey. But all fun and games aside, I'm going to tell you some of the history behind this building because it's just as suspicious as you would expect. The Pennsylvania State Capitol is the seat of government for the U.S. state of Pennsylvania, located in downtown Harrisburg, which was designed by architect Joseph Miller Huston in 1902 and completed in 1906 in a Beaux-Arts style with decorative Renaissance themes throughout. The Capitol houses the legislative chambers for the Pennsylvania General Assembly, made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and the Harrisburg chambers for the Supreme and Superior Courts of Pennsylvania, as well as the offices of the governor and the lieutenant governor. It is also the main building of the Pennsylvania State Capitol complex. The seat of government for the state was initially in Philadelphia, then was relocated to Lancaster in 1799, and finally to Harrisburg in 1812. The current Capitol, known as the Huston Capitol, is the third state capitol building built in Harrisburg. The first, the Hills Capitol, was destroyed in 1897 by a fire. The second, the Cobb Capitol, was left unfinished when funding was discontinued in 1899. President Theodore Roosevelt attended the building's dedication in 1906. After its completion, the Capitol project was the subject of a graft scandal. The construction and subsequent furnishing cost 3 times more than the General Assembly had appropriated for the design and construction. Architect Joseph Huston and 4 others were convicted of graft for price gouging. The Pennsylvania State Capitol is often referred to as a palace of art because of its many sculptures, murals, and stained glass windows, most of which are Pennsylvania themed or Pennsylvania made. The building was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1977 and designated a National Historic Landmark in 2006. The boundaries of the designation were expanded to include the Capitol complex in 2013, with the Capitol as a contributing property. Well, what would it be without a fire, some old brick buildings, and scandals? Seems to be the common theme we can find pretty much anywhere. So, what do you think about this building? It's pretty spectacular. It's beautiful. Green dome, a 19-foot golden statue at the top, of course. We've got some interesting alignments, and yeah, you can feel power when you go to state capitals. I mean, obviously it's the seat of government, but there's something more significant to these places. And when I go around and capture them, I feel like I'm becoming a part of that. Regardless of when these buildings were actually built, it's worth your time to go check out any state capitol if you can. And you'll probably notice some interesting things. Now, one of the things I noticed is the building, while mostly stone masonry construction, definitely has gone through repairs and renovations, and there's even an entire new section and other buildings nearby. But I've been to several state capitals, and they all have this similar vibe, similar energy, similar layout, similar weird stories. Really interesting places. And the reason why you need to go there is because you can see how sites align, and you can see the placement of different features as it pertains to the surrounding area. Fountains, domes, statues and monuments. I mean, 1902, that's post-reset. So no wonder this building has such a strange story. If you're familiar with the timeline of the Phoenix phenomenon, 1902 is right when the last cycle began, and after the wrap-up of the 1800s. But here, down State Street, you can see the typical buildings that we would expect in any town USA. Really, any town worldwide. Churches. Here's the other thing you got to consider with all these so-called churches. What was the population at the time when they were built? And why did they need 5, 10, 15 churches within a 1-mile radius? Was everybody really that devout? Or were these buildings used for other things? The timing that we're given of them all being constructed in the late 1800s really doesn't add up. And I'm a strong believer and understander that these buildings were there. We see features that speak different styles. We see elements such as subfloor. You know, what is going on there? That looks exactly like Richmond. And it's weird to think that they would just put these steps. I mean, it's unsightly, honestly, for such nice buildings and craftsmanship. Look at the mortar tolerances on these bricks. Granted, they are facade bricks, but still. I'm telling you, these cities were built at a different time. They were emptied out, and then newcomers came in. And I know this because I've been showing you the same thing everywhere, and I've been reading the historical literature and evidence, as well as drawing my own conclusions. There's no way buildings like this were built in the time that they were, with the populations and the workforce. That's the main thing we're wondering. Who built all of these amazing structures? And I'm still just on State Street. A mix of styles, features, and elements. Clearly, whoever was living here was very sophisticated, and they knew how to build. I mean, another church? Like, it's really hard to believe that these were just churches and every single person was going to them. Because today, with higher population, nobody goes to church. So here we can see the Capitol looking down State Street, and this is the alignment that would lead to Charleston, West Virginia. But it opposes the Susquehanna River, which is one of the oldest rivers in the world, believe it or not. A lot of significance in Pennsylvania. And they plan all of this according to what was and according to what will be. So it's useful to get a better understanding. On my way out of here, I crossed over the Susquehanna between two pillars. And if you know what two twin pillars represents, interesting stuff. Well, thank you for watching. As always, like, comment, and take care. Be well. I'll see you in the next one.